You missed Chris's paranoid delusions.
Paranoid delusions.
Yep.
I was just greeting the gang. You know, we have Porkins and Hayden and Rick and Gabe from the office. It's just I was greeting the weekly gang.
The weekly gang.
All our friends are here. But the only true friend is Rick McCallum.
My God. This is why you're not allowed to complain about me talking about pod racing.
Okay, I don't bring up Rick McCallum unless Rick McCallum is needed to be brought up.
You bring up Rick McCallum more often than necessary.
No.
Yeah.
I have brought up Rick McCallum because he keeps appearing in my special features. You bring up pod racing because you want to bring up pod racing.
You bring up Rick McCallum because you want to. Don't even lie.
Yes, but also I have a reason. Because I never bring him up. Your reason is to drive us nuts.
And? I see no flaws in this.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which we watch one Star Wars movie every week for fucking ever. This week, Return of the Jedi. How was your watch, Ben?
It was good. I was a little behind this week, so I had to do an at work half watch again.
Oh, I don't know if we should mention that with your boss listening to the podcast.
He doesn't.
Oh, okay, then fuck him. Chris, how was your
right turn? Jesus.
I can't wait for when he's like, "Hey, could you send me the link to that? I'm actually kind of curious now."
My watch was fine. I watched the entirety of the right movie this time.
Fantastic.
So,
Gold star for Chris.
You know, smooth sailing.
This watch was fucking miserable. It wasn't the movie, it was the special features again.
Oh boy.
This was prequels bad. In fact, I would say this was worse than prequels because I had to watch, it was about an hour and 36 minutes of every spoof that was ever put on television about Star Wars from every fucking program ever on the Blu-ray.
How was that not 6 hours?
Well, I guess they were probably selective. I don't know how they were selective because there was like a solid 20 minutes of people making fun of the ethics of Star Wars through their merchandising. That was good. I think I laughed at like two things, and it was like I don't know the name of the show because I didn't write it down, but somebody was making fun of what Jar Jar looked like on set, and that was pretty good. Yeah, it was about that. The really cute Vader kid commercial was on there, which actually gave me an existential crisis because that meant it came out at least 9 years ago. They didn't have the good Natalie Portman SNL bits, which made me sad. But all in all, I would say on that, if I never have to watch another That 70s Show or American Dad or Family Guy, I don't think there was actually any American Dad, but there was certainly enough Family Guy to make it feel like there was American Dad. Or like even SNL bit about Star Wars again, it will be too soon. But yeah, it was just a lot this week again.
I'm an avid SNL fan, and I was like, I cringed every time they had fuck. I'm doing a Star Wars podcast for the rest of my life. What the hell's Kylo's actor's name?
Why would you do this to me? I can't remember Kylo.
No!
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
What? You put me on the spot, and I wasn't ready because this isn't the sequel trilogy.
We had a collective brain fart.
Adam Driver's great. I have no problems with Adam Driver. Adam Driver is a talented actor.
Adam Driver's great, but every time he was on SNL and they did like Kylo Ren bits, they were all bad. Okay, no, that's not true. They did one like undercover boss.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't mind SNL. SNL, I feel, is a lot of hit and miss. When it hits hard. It just does not hit on Star Wars bits unless it's Natalie Portman rapping about telling you to fuck off and about how great Star Wars is and how great she is. That's the SNL majesty. But yeah, I also watched a 2 hour and 37-minute documentary on the entire original trilogy. It was a lot this week, and I was miserable. And I'm really glad that there's not a lot of content on the sequels. Except that 2 hour documentary on the Rise of Skywalker I'm going to have to watch.
Yeah, I still have to get the Blu-ray. That's going to be this week.
No, it's all right. You don't have to. It's all on Disney+.
I have to.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me,
Josh,
Ben.
I have to, because I have every Star Wars movie but that one on Blu-ray.
You know, in like a year, they're going to release a complete saga edition in like a plastic Darth Vader's head or something.
You know, I already have Solo and Rogue One and all of the other movies, so I need to get it.
When they release that, I want to just have this here in like.
I don't care.
I know they're going
to. I'm not going to buy it.
The shape of Darth Vader's helmet.
I'm not going to buy it.
It's going to happen. Or it'll be a Baby
probably
Yoda.
Will.
You take the top.
You'll buy it. I know you, Ben. You're gonna buy it.
No, I won't.
I know you.
No, I won't.
You can say whatever you want.
I'm not gonna buy fucking 9 Blu-rays that I already own. I'm ridiculous. I'm not that ridiculous.
I don't believe you for a second.
All right, well, I would.
I say that every time Skyrim is re-released for something.
Now that's one I've only bought once, but I bought it at midnight release, so
I have 8 separate copies of Skyrim.
Chris, you're an enabler.
Yeah.
They keep putting it on things, and I keep putting it on things. So look, I can't.
Stop supporting it.
I can't help it.
Insert filthy Frank yelling, "It's time to stop."
Yeah.
We're about to get another generation of consoles. They need to stop.
It's gonna happen. I'm preparing myself to buy Skyrim for another Xbox. For my 3rd Xbox in a row, I'm gonna buy Skyrim. I got super depressed today. It has nothing to do with this movie, but it involves Star Wars. I got super depressed today because someone re-put up and recompiled a video of the small bit of Star Wars 1313 gameplay that was actually released with some of the concept art, and I watched that and I got sad all over again.
That is sad. There's apparently a rumor of Force Unleashed 3 going around, but I know nothing about it. It started popping up today.
It was also in development around the same time, and then
there was a 3rd one in development?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That was 1313, and there was something else that I can't remember that was in development. I can't.
I don't have a lot of the Star Wars news channels or whatever on my regular YouTube channel, but I sure as hell get them on the Star Wars Every Week Forever YouTube channel, and I signed in to check today, and it was just like nothing but Star Wars or The Force The Force Unleashed coming to console soon and shit like that. And obviously it's not confirmed. I didn't watch anything on it, but it's a rumor going around.
Tune in to, Star Wars Every Week Forever, your hard-hitting news source of, I saw it, I didn't look into it at all, but yeah, it's... come back for more hot Star Wars rumors every week. That we did not substantiate.
They're fine games, I guess. I don't care.
I didn't like either one of them, but I would rather talk about both of them than talk about this movie, so.
I have a question.
Okay.
Speaking of this movie, There Is No Escape, Chris. I have a question. How the fuck does Leia get Boosh, the bounty hunter? How does she get his armor?
I don't know, but I will tell you, I've mentioned the collections that are on the Blu-rays multiple times. They have that in the collections, but they don't have a video commentary on it. But of course they do for the Slave Leia costume, and I was mad. I was
What?
mad. I wanted to know what effort went into making that bounty hunter costume, and I'm pissed.
What? I mean, do we know from expanded universe stuff? Was that an actual bounty hunter whose armor she stole,
Yes.
or was it?
So,
okay.
I was
I
browsing
never knew that.
Wikipedia today at work on my lunch break. Not at work, on my lunch break. I'm not that bad of an employee. I only watch the movies while I'm on the clock.
I did the same thing today, Ben. It's okay.
So, essentially, at some point, he was taken out by the Black Sun Syndicate. And that's how he died, and it was swept under the rug. And then Leia just got the armor somehow.
Oh, that's boring. That's
In old canon, there was a connection that basically delivered the armor to Leia.
Yeah.
In current canon, it just kind of goes from like he died to Leia wore his armor, and there's no like interlude there, and it pisses me off.
It's a cool looking fucking costume. I would have loved to hear more about how that got made, but no. You know, this seems like a good enough place to put it up. I watched the Empire of Dreams documentary this week, the 2 hour and 30 some minutes documentary that's on Disney Plus that came out in 2004. And I learned a lot about the creation of these movies. I also learned that here's a funny thing, and then I'll lead into the sad thing. Star Wars had a combined casting session. Basically, George and Brian De Palma sat down to get more actors in for their movies. And so it was Star Wars, and it was Carrie. I want to know what those casting sessions were like, because there's a ton of filming about, Mark Hamill and coming in, and how Harrison Ford was there just to read lines, but he ended up getting the part, and how Kurt Russell was there, and all kinds of actors and stuff like that. They never show the part of the auditions where they go, all right, thank you for talking about all that science nonsense bullshit that we just talked about. Would you like to now audition for the part of the movie where a girl has powers with her mind and also gets blood dropped on her in the middle of her high school prom in the same production as Star Wars? I'd love to see you try.
Okay, yeah, I was about to ask. We're talking about like Carrie, 1976 Carrie, right?
We're talking about 1976 Carrie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was very not
just
sure what was happening for a minute there. I was afraid I was having a stroke.
Yeah, I also thought I was stroking out because you said Carrie and I assumed you meant Fisher, and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
No,
I'm having a stroke. Oh fuck, this is it. This is how it happens.
This is how it happens.
The 1976 movie Carrie.
Okay.
The 1976 film Carrie and Star Wars had a combined casting process.
Okay, I'm not having a stroke. All right, good.
Jesus Christ.
I want to go back in time and be on the set of that and just see the juxtaposition.
That's like if you heard today, like, oh, here's our joint casting session for like motherfucking the new Dune movie and goddamn Paranormal Activity 3. Like, what the fuck?
The original point was that Carrie Fisher got signed on to do Star Wars with the promise that she would go to a fat farm to lose 10 pounds.
Wow.
Which, she was skinny before they even told her to do that.
Sign me up. What? I'm a fat fuck.
Don't talk bad about yourself. I'll beat you up.
That won't dissuade me.
Oh, God.
Your threats won't work on me anymore, Dad.
Things are getting weird at the Star Wars Every Week Forever offices.
I'm waiting for our regular, like, listeners of, like, our close friends to be like, is everyone okay?
That's I mean, honestly, that's the best part of this every week is like the weekly mental fucking stability check-in with each other.
Yeah, we're all, newsflash, we're all okay. We're all in good shape.
And we're great. This is fine and this is fun as fuck. But Jesus Christ, I think it really brings out everything wrong with us every week. It's great, you know.
Soon enough, we're gonna have to start doing a roll call when everyone signs it. Like, okay, is everyone good? Is everyone mentally stable?
We're basically already doing that after the podcast.
Roll call. I'm sad. All right, moving on.
I'm sad. Anyway,
this movie.
So I got 2 notes for this movie, and they're not about anything specific. They are broad-ranging notes that I just want to get out of the way. So, first and foremost, I still think the beginning of this movie is fantastic. Fuck all of you.
You're wrong, but that's okay.
And 2, Josh is still entirely wrong about the Ewoks and the cult, and that's not going to change.
Yeah, no, I still agree with Chris on this one.
Yeah, you're all okay. I need to talk about Leia's dress.
I will say, wait, before we move on from this, I will say I listened to our episode from last time we talked about this movie, and Josh straight up says they have weapons on them. So Josh, my question is, were you advocating they rather attack and probably kill several of them?
Yeah.
I need to talk about Leia's dress.
Okay.
Lover of the show and #1 Ben fan, Zins brought to our attention a couple weeks ago, and I made a note of it. They brought to our attention that Leia just has a new dress when everyone gets brought up to be burned alive at the stake by the Ewoks. How does she get that dress? And also, I know how she gets that dress because it's the only logical explanation. The Ewoks murdered a woman.
And so, in conclusion, you still think the Ewoks are the victim in this situation?
Listen.
No. What's the problem? So, let me get this straight. So you acknowledge.
No, we're just gonna revisit this conversation every night.
Every fucking week.
If you went back in time to caveman times and you tried to alter their religious appearance, would it be their fault that they murdered you, or would it be your fault?
Josh, if that's the reason they don't murder me.
Yeah. It's either.
And also, I will again point out the fact that the alternative of shooting them is not preferable.
Yeah. And also, at the end, they're all having a big party and everything. I assume somebody at that point is able to communicate with them because they're all hanging out and stuff. I assume that was rectified pretty quickly.
I don't believe that for a second.
You know how that wouldn't have happened? If they had fucking murdered and eaten them.
I'm just saying, in that ending scene as well, they are literally playing drums on Stormtrooper helmets, and I don't think it's that far-fetched that they killed a woman and stole her dress in order to give it to Leia.
I think you're hurting your argument, is my point.
I don't care about that argument anymore.
You were so fucking passionate
I
in
still
that
feel
episode.
That way, but it's contradictory to my first point.
You were so passionate. You were like, I think time will be kind at this point. Time will not be kind at this point. They ate a woman.
I still do. All I'm saying is that if you go back in time and poke a bear, if you go poke a bear over and over and over again, it's not your fault, or it's not the bear's fault when it eats you.
Josh, if I go back in time and I get eaten by a bear, I just got eaten by a bear. But if I poke that bear and it doesn't eat me, well, then I don't see the problem.
If I need to pretend like I'm friends with a god for that bear not to eat me, and we both end up living, I don't see the problem.
I really don't understand the crux of this argument, Josh.
Because you're thinking of it in a Star Wars context. You're not thinking of it in ethics context.
No,
Josh, I think ethically, the preservation of life is greater than
the preservation
believing
of
they interacted
life.
with a god.
The
Josh.
preservation of your life is not more important.
Of
Just-
life overall.
Hold on.
What?
Because we're talking about this in Star Wars terms, Josh. So let's talk about it in non-Star Wars terms. You know how there's that, like, group of indigenous tribesmen on that island that kills a missionary every, like, 10 years or
Yeah.
something? Okay, so if we crash land on that island, and they're gonna fucking murder us, but I tell them Ben is a god,
Oh, don't do
and
this
we
to me.
escape the island because they think Ben's a god for a couple of minutes, I think we're fine. I would rather that.
No, that's actually proves my point.
Okay, well, you can stay on the island. Me and Ben are getting the fuck out of there.
I think if you think real hard and move your gears in your head on that one, you might realize, no, that's pretty fucked up.
I'm not saying
You're
it's
right.
not
I will
fucked up.
allow them to kill me then.
I'm saying, in order to preserve more life, that is
Listen.
the optimal route.
Listen,
It is more ethical to make them believe they've interacted with a god than it is to allow them to commit murder and cannibalism.
there's a movie that talks about this, and I think you should watch it. It's called The Road to El Dorado. Anyway.
I think I don't know how many more rotations it'll be, but
All I know is if this keeps getting fucking brought up every rotation.
it's going to every fucking rotation.
I didn't bring it up.
Oh no, I know you didn't, but you were so fucking smugly sure in the last recording. You were like, I think Time's gonna be kind to this opinion. You'll come around. No, the fuck we won't.
So,
I still
my
think you're
favorite
wrong.
part of the movie is, is when, random A-Wing pilot number 3 flies into the Superstar Destroyer.
Oh god, I love this fucking podcast.
Do you? Do you, Chris?
I do. I do.
I swear, if this I'm fine with it getting brought up every other podcast.
No,
but
no,
I think
no.
it's
Every fucking one.
that's fucking insulting.
It's
Okay,
just gonna be
listen,
a.
we have 9 weeks to let new thoughts simmer.
Yeah, like
No, it's gonna be my weekly. Well, Josh, I think you're still wrong. Check.
I watched Yoda breakdance and the entire cast of the original
Hold
trilogy.
on.
I watched a Stormtrooper disco number.
I took a. I felt a lull and I took a sip. And now I have to clean up. I need you to expand on this.
No,
No?
it's exactly what it sounds like. I watched Yoda breakdance, then I watched the entire cast of the original trilogy rap, and I watched the Stormtroopers do a disco number. It's all in the spoofs. It's all there. It's all bullshit.
Oh my god. So you watched a Minch breakdance number.
I did watch a No, I'd say that's Yoda. That sounds like a Yoda. It's really bad. I had a bad time this week, y'all. So, I got a semi-intelligent thing that we can talk about rather than the bullshit we've talked about thus far.
No. Okay. Are we gonna do this again? Are we gonna try to do something serious?
It's not so much serious as much as it is amusing. I was struck this watch through. Specifically the movie, not these fucking special features. And I don't think it's something we've talked about a lot. I was watching the fucking terrible musical number. And I realized I didn't hate it as much as everyone else. And I knew there was a problem there, so I started to search myself to figure out why I didn't hate it as much as everyone else. And I realized, up until a few years ago, I've never seen the movie any different. I've only ever seen it with that shitty scene in it. And I started to think about... I kind of spaced out for the majority of the rest of Tatooine and just kind of spaced out and started thinking about how different generations are kind of gonna be kind of already have proven to be very different, have very different takes from the movies than the generations before them. Like, to an entire generation, which is our generation, the only version of Star Wars we've seen is with all these fucking edits in. The majority of the edits, anyway. And to an entire generation of Star Wars fans, the prequels are like their thing, which is also our generation. And it kind of makes them more accepting of the shit that people went into the movies that were older and were just like, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. And it made me think a lot about the sequels, too. That it's kind of like this weird thing with Star Wars where there's an entire generational gap between how people view the movies because so many people saw certain things at a younger age, and that entirely colored their perspective of everything going forward. I got really into my own head thinking about that and thinking about how that sort of relates to the sequel trilogy and how I'm really interested in like 10 years to hear all of the perspectives of that trilogy on people who grew up with it. Because like our sequel trilogy episodes are always going to be different than if this came out 10 years from now and if the chips in your head from Elon Musk like allowed you to listen to a podcast in your head. It's always going to be different than that. And I just got interested in that idea. And it was all because I don't get as pissed off about the musical dance scene that is objectively fucking horrible.
That was a very deep dive over a very small scene.
Well, I also think
that got a little meta for me, not gonna lie.
Well, it is kind of meta. It was a very meta thought. And I think it's emblematic of having to watch one Star Wars movie every week forever.
You know, it's actually really interesting you say that you bring this up, because it brings up something I wanted to bring up, and I was trying to find a time to do it. So I had this conversation with my dad recently, and then with my wife, because see, and like us, we think of the movies and the way they came out, like, you know, obviously 4, 5, and 6, and then, you know, the prequels. How would you show Star Wars to someone? What movie would you start with?
I think you're setting up a kid for failure if you don't show them 1 to 9. Because then you're just going to pass on all of your own opinions on a child rather than letting them form their own opinions.
Yeah, but is the Vader reveal in Empire ruined that way?
It is, yeah, but they're going to learn that through osmosis anyway.
So,
it's not. There's not a kid that's not in kindergarten that's not going to already know that.
I had seen the movie by.
Well, are we specifying like kids, or is it just someone?
I mean, anyone, kid, like, and I mean, I see.
Because I will say I've been in several as I've stated on this podcast before. Whenever I start to gain interest in someone, I always find out they've never seen Star Wars. So my dating life has been me trying to answer this question.
See, well, because I've seen, and this got brought up a while back because I saw something on YouTube where some guy was like having his teenagers watch, and they were watching, you know, 4, 5, and 6, and then the prequels, and they were teenagers and they did not know about the Vader reveal. So like, I don't think everyone is going to know. Like, you know, I don't think. I mean, fuck, I didn't see. God, why the hell can't I think of the name of the fucking movie? Oh, Jesus.
I think I know which movie you're talking about, but I'm going to just let you kind of dig around a little bit.
To me. Fucking M. Night Shyamalan, the fucking...
Yep.
God, what the hell is it called?
The movie with the kid that sees ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking that one. Like, I didn't see that movie till I was like 19, and I didn't know, you know, like, I didn't know the big twist to that, you know, and I'm a child of the internet. I was on the internet from a very young age. I mean, quite frankly, it's incredible that I didn't. Sixth Sense.
I was about to start saying six as
Middle
many
of a-
times as I could
middle
for
of
the
a
rest of the
sentence.
podcast to see if it came to you.
So no, I don't think it would be ruined for them, and I don't know. I'm really struggling with it as somebody who, within the next year or two, is going to, be having children. It keeps me up at night, like how do you do? Look, look.
I'm so sorry. That was mean of me, but
I mean, yes, it's exaggerating a bit, but I mean, it's still like it's an interesting thought, like I really feel like, and my proposed solution to this at one point was, all right, well, you watch 4 and 5, and then you watch the prequels, and then you watch Return of the Jedi.
yeah, I've heard about
that
that.
sounds like a headache.
Yeah, that was like a really popular watch through method before the sequels came out. I don't know.
I'd block them in release order, to be honest with you, because like Chris said, I feel like watching the prequels first takes away from the Bespin.
Yeah, but I honestly like, by the time I show my kids that, I fully expect that they would know, and maybe if they didn't and I found that out, I would change the method. But I don't want to set my kids up to bitch about Star Wars forever, and I think if you show them the original trilogy before the prequels, that will color their entire experience with the prequels. And unlike myself, I would prefer if my children were not hyper obsessed with this kind of bullshit unless they want to do it as a career.
See, I don't know why it would ruin it. See, I'm almost of the opinion that it would, because by the time, I mean, shit, at this point, I think it looks fine, but some of the CGI is real rough. I think that's almost, you're going to lose some kids on that, because, all right, we're going to watch the prequels, which were done more recently, and some of the CGI is shit, but then you're going to get to the OT, and, I mean, the practical effects still hold up really well, but, I mean, it looks like an old fucking movie. You know, like, so I think a lot of kids are going to fucking lose interest when you get to 4 and go, oh, what's this old piece of crap? Like, what? Where are all of the space wizards with the swords? Oh, there's like one now? Okay, fuck. What? Like, what?
Nah, I think at that point they're invested enough. Because, the prequels are not great, but to a kid, they're pretty great because you can't really sniff out some of the problems with it as a kid.
See,
I don't know.
I don't know. And I would have to ask her again, because I always forget whether my wife said she watched the prequels first.
Yeah.
And then watched the OT. But like, she loves Anakin. She loves Vader.
Yeah.
She thinks Vader's badass. She loves Anakin in the prequels. Gets a little annoyed when I say he's a whiny bitch. I'm like, I feel like because you watched, you're more familiar with the prequels and watched those more. Like, I don't know. I almost feel like it detracts from the originals a little bit.
It does.
If you watch the prequels first.
I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I don't want to impose my experiences on my kids.
Well, what are you imposing? I mean, like, what's...
Yeah. But like
what's being imposed if you watch the
I'm not
OT
saying it's wrong to watch them 4, 5, 6 and then 1, 2, 3. I'm saying because that's my gut instinct, I want to go against it, because I think they would. I think if you're putting a kid in front of a TV and saying, let's watch this movie really out of order so that you're kind of confused about where we are in the story, I don't think they're going to enjoy it as much.
I spent so many years of my life watching these movies not in order, and I fucking love them.
Yeah, but it was different for you. Because you were experiencing the prequels as they came out.
No. The only one I had to wait for was episode 3.
Yeah, but even that. Like, you could contextualize watching 4, 5, and 6 first, because you lived in an era where the prequels were coming out.
Dude, I thought I was dyslexic when I was a kid because I couldn't figure out why the third one was coming out when we have the other three. That shit threw me for a fucking loop, and I still love it.
I think this is why I got so interested in this thought experiment of mine while I was watching the movies, because there's really no right answer.
No, it depends.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if it depends. I just think it's dependent on what the people that are watching it know and don't know, and what the person showing them wants to do. And I don't think there's a right answer. My gut instinct is to watch them out of order, but I don't know if that would do them any favors. So I don't know. I think that's why it's so interesting, because I can't wait till 10 years from now, if I'm alive, to hear the opinions of the sequels from people who only grew up with the sequels. Because their gut instinct is going to accept what's in them, and they are going to be thinking about the EU, I think it's really fascinating to see what their perspective as grown adults on these movies they watch as kids is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a similar thought because, my wife grew up watching the movies, but never experienced any of the EU, never read any of the books, nothing. Literally nothing. Had no idea of anything outside of the core series going into the new movies, and she was just as mad. She was like, so I am also curious, but I don't know how much it'll matter. It's going to be interesting.
I do want to say, as someone who has tried to introduce Star Wars to two separate people, I've had two partners that I've tried to introduce Star Wars to. We'll call the first one L and the second one T. Josh knows one of these people personally.
Oh, yeah.
L was a person whose interests are very similar to mine. We are both very nerdy type people. They were very much a Harry Potter person, and I was a Star Wars person. And so we were going through each person's movie series. I had her watch 1 through 5 or through 6. That was a slog. Because, and I mean solely because, and I'm not making this up, of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Because this person could not stand Jar Jar, and I do not blame them.
Well, I think my instinct, if I was showing an adult it, would be to do it out of order. I was more hyperfixated on the idea of showing kids.
I know, but my point is, the conversation wasn't specific, so I wasn't.
Yeah.
T, on the other hand, I showed them, I told them, okay, there's these 3 separate trilogies, here's how they work. I explained when everything, and they were like, all right, well, let's watch them in release order. We watched episode 4, and I could never get her to sit down to watch another Star Wars movie. Because this, I should have known, because this person's attention span wasn't as attention-y
A New Hope's
for the way A New Hope works.
Yeah, A New Hope's a kind of a slog at the beginning, and that is a problem that in showing new people. I mean, A New Hope does things probably as it should, but showing new people. I have a friend from another friend group who we bugged for a decade to watch Star Wars. And he finally sat down and he started with A New Hope. And he finished the movie and said, I don't know why you people have been fucking telling me to watch Star Wars my entire life. Because that first hour is a slog. And it's not a slog to us because there's so much interesting stuff going on. But to a new audience who all they can think of is massive crazy lightsaber fights and force abilities and stuff, that's not what A New Hope is. And that's another interesting thing about this conversation. It's, what do you think Star Wars is? Because there's not really a right answer, other than it's a space wizard movie for children.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of things is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I think the allure of Star Wars is because it has just about something for anyone.
Yeah. It's also not...
If you want crazy fucking space wizards running around with lightsabers. You got, like, the prequel trilogy. If you want more, like, slow build, like, slower paced movies, you have the original trilogy, especially A New Hope. If you want more, like, the gritty kind of, like, Star Wars, you got the Clone Wars TV series. It's a very multifaceted franchise.
I have friends that have told me adamantly that Star Wars isn't sci-fi. And they don't mean that as a knockdown to Star Wars. They mean it as it's constructed like a fantasy movie. And that's the damn truth. It's not about where it's set. It's about the way the story is established. And that's what George was always interested in, retelling stories around the fire that has been lost to history. He wanted to reintroduce that into culture. And I think it's fair to call it entirely fantasy. It's a lot of perspective.
Well, and it's funny because, like, with some, I want to say semantics like that, even though I don't think that's the proper term I'm searching for. With labels like that, Star Wars has so many different things it has and still is labeled as.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sci-fi, it's a space opera, it's a space western, and the list just goes on and on because it has all of those different concepts in it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm like Josh said, I'm curious to see what the future holds as far as what the interpretation of Star Wars is moving forward. I think it'll be really interesting with the future generations.
And this is a perfect segue into why Obi-Wan's a piece of shit. And by perfect segue, I mean none at all. So Obi-Wan in this fucking movie, there's one line that fucking stuck out to me in this movie. And that was after Yoda takes the forever sleep and Luke's outside of the hut bitching at Ghost Obi-Wan about how he's a piece of shit, because he is. And fucking Ghost Obi-Wan's like, well, I just wanted to train your father just like Yoda trained us. And I was like, it all makes sense now.
They ain't learned shit.
And also, a little bit of prequel continuity makes these movies so fucking weird.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
It makes them so fucking weird. Because, like, the interactions Obi-Wan has with Vader, even though they knew full well, like, what Anakin's, like, general story was from the outset.
Did they?
Obi-Wan's discussion about Vader gets weird when you look at the details. Like, or for example, Luke and Leia. Obi-Wan knew this entire time they were siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Would telling Luke, hey, that's your sister in A New Hope, have hurt him at all?
Nope.
Would that have diminished his drive to save her any less?
Nope.
I argue it would have the opposite effect. It would make him want to go rescue her more. And that's just within the continuity of fucking these movies, with George Lucas deciding at the last minute, fuck it, they're siblings.
Two things. One, I don't think that George had a good idea of who Anakin was before all of this, because he didn't even know who Vader was. Ralph McQuarrie made Vader. I mentioned this in a previous podcast, but it was probably the biggest thing I've taken away from all these special features. Ralph McQuarrie made Vader because Ralph McQuarrie got really, really obsessed with the idea of him having to breathe in space. And that's where the respirator came from. And George never thought of that. Vader. Yeah. George never thought of that. Like, ever. And then he had to work his way back. Like, he rewrote the script 2 weeks into filming. It's not, like... there's also a deleted scene from this movie where Luke and Leia kiss again.
That's another thing I wanted to talk about real quick.
Uh-huh.
So when So okay, Luke comes to Endor after the scene that we're not discussing further, and he finally gets the one-on-one talk with Leia, and he gives her the whole like fucking, by the way, we're siblings, in a very like cryptic, not cryptic way.
Mm-hmm.
And Leia looks at him and goes, "I've always sort of known." And my reaction to that line is the same reaction Han Solo has when Leia tells him they're siblings, because you know exactly what's going through Han Solo's fucking head.
It's the
He
fucking
pulls
YouTube
up the
video.
image of her and Luke kissing, and the confusion on his face. I just fucking relate to that so purely.
I can't stress enough. There's another kiss scene from this movie.
When is it?
It happens. There's an entire section. So as is often the case in George's Star Wars movies, the entire section of the Millennium Falcon and the X-wing leaving the planet's atmosphere was in order to get across information that was in another deleted scene. It was a part of the series of Tatooine scenes that got deleted during a sandstorm, basically. So what happened was he went with them to the Falcon, and then they said they were going to get on the Falcon, and he said he had to go to Dagobah and told them, and that he would meet up with them. Same information. And then Leia tells him to be careful, and right in front of Han, she kisses him again. Right
God,
below the. It's not the same kind of kiss. It's far less intimate.
Like it's more of a peck.
It's not that it's a peck. It's just it felt more like a brother and sister kissing, although it was a little too long for that.
But it felt more like platonic.
It felt more platonic, exactly. But
really wish they had left that in the movie.
But still.
Ugh.
And that honestly, I think that scene would have helped.
I don't think so. No.
Han acts like such a jealous son of a bitch in this movie.
Yeah.
Like a little much. Like I get a little bit, because like him and Leia are like fucking stepping on the gas and the brake, but he is such a son of a bitch on Endor. Like fucking, she's like, Leia's all upset figuring out, like putting the pieces together. Oh, Luke's my brother. Darth Vader is Luke's dad. Oh fuck. And then Han comes over, he's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "Just leave me alone." And he's like, "Oh, so you could tell Luke." Like, dude, give the poor woman some space.
Yeah.
Like, not everything is your fucking business. That very much bothered me this watch through.
Oh yeah. Han's not a great person. And it's worth remembering that Harrison Ford was kind of checked out at this point. Like, he re-signed for this movie, despite the fact that in negotiations he kept trying to convince George to kill him off in it.
Well, that's why they put him in Carbonite.
Yeah.
Because they weren't sure if they were going to get Harrison Ford back, so they could write him off easier.
Everybody else was signed up for two more movies after A New Hope. Harrison signed up for one. I have a Harrison Ford quote here if you want to hear it.
Okay.
This is Harrison Ford on George's directing in 2004. "I think George likes people. I think George is a warm-hearted person, but he's a little impatient with the process of acting, of finding things, you know? And I think he thinks it's there. It's right there. I wrote it down, you know? Just do that, you know? And sometimes you can't just do that and make it work."
George Lucas is the Todd Howard of fucking directing.
He's famous for saying he makes his movies in the editing room.
It reminds me of the John Tron bit where he's like, "Yeah, I just pushed a couple buttons on my Fitbit and it was good."
Jeez. Yeah, it's I was really excited to learn more about the director in this movie, this watch through, but there's like no fucking information on him.
Damn.
Richard Marquand directed this movie, but from the documentaries I saw, and it was the last documentary, the Empire Dreams documentary, that even talked about him. He passed relatively young, as I understand it, like 3 years after this movie came out. But the impression I got from the way they talked was that he was inexperienced with the type of movie they were making. He didn't really understand practical effects or even special effects, and George had to be on set more than he had to on Empire, which again is the movie he had the least to do with. There's a lot of stuff that's in some of these documentaries for the original trilogy that kind of seems like George rewriting history. I would say this entire process has made me appreciate how little to do or how way less to do with the story of Star Wars George has than he thinks he has.
Than most people thinks he does.
Than he projects. Because this original trilogy was so heavily shaped by 1,000 different people that all that's really there at George's vision are, like, not even all the big moments, but some of them. He wrote the groundwork and everybody else made it work.
And that's at the point where honestly, something like that would have me worried about something like too many cooks in the kitchen type scenario.
No, like,
but with the original trilogy, it flows better than most other Star Wars things. Cough, cough, the prequels.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. George was 100% in control of the prequels, and they were worse. I'm not trying to shit on the prequels right now, but they were worse because it was less collaborative. Now, George is famous for kind of just handing things to people and saying, you work on this. And I'll say that when he does that in the prequels, it's some of the best stuff in the prequels. I mean, Order 66 was not done by him, for example. Like, the majority of the end of Attack of the Clones was not done by him. It seems like he's better when he's collaborating, not in charge.
I was gonna say I have 2 things I want to get in before we're done, but I forgot the first one. So I have 1 thing to get in before we're done. Last week we were talking about models they were using.
Mm-hmm.
And I made mention that I know that they had a small fleet of certain models. And I do a lot. Obviously, I am very much, as anyone who knows me personally knows, I very much love digging into world building of any kind. That is a drug to me. I follow this YouTuber called E.C. Henry, and he does a lot of videos where he does deep dives in, like, background ships of science fiction stuff that you wouldn't even fucking think about. And he was going through some of the behind the scenes stuff of Return of the Jedi. And he found they had a bunch of really small TIE miniatures with these little tabs in the back. And he was digging around trying to figure out what they were. Here, the production team used Kenner plastic TIE fighter toys that they bought. And you could actually, if you're paying really close attention, you could pick them out in the background of certain scenes.
That's fucking great.
And that tickled me pink.
Well, that was probably because they already had their TIE fighters built. They were there from the first episode, or from A New Hope. So they probably didn't want to build more TIE fighters. So they were just like, I need these for perspective pretty far in the background.
And that's why if you look like in the far distance of some shots, there's some TIE fighters where their wing proportions don't look quite right. That's because they were using little fucking toys.
Yeah. Well,
that they actually went. So the Star Wars team went to a toy store to pick up Star Wars toys to put in a Star Wars movie.
I mean, like, keep in mind, these are the same team put potatoes as asteroids in the back of the Empire
Yes!
chase scene. So,
But I need to give that video a quick plug,
Oh,
because I know I said I'd bring it up this episode, and I wanted to put it out there before I forgot.
there's two people dancing in the ending ceremony that are doing like this weird default dance. They're random rebels, just kind of surrounded by 3 or 4 Ewoks, and their faces are entirely blank, and they look like they're miserable, doing this awkward white guy dance where they kind of just move their midsection and put their arms out from their elbows and just circle them around a bit. It's like the worst. And I realized while I was watching it, all of the dancing in the Knights of the Old Republic game is just that. That
Oh
is. They
Oh!
just took that.
First thing. This is mostly directed to Chris, because Josh doesn't listen to me. Chris, I need your opinion on something.
Excuse
Okay.
you?
So there's the retcon out. I don't know if you're aware of this, that Captain Rex is one of the rebels
yes.
in the Battle
Oh.
of Endor.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew that, yeah.
I know that's a semi-hot topic in the fan base, and I wanted your 2 cents on it.
I'm totally cool with it. My dad and I just talked about this like a couple weeks ago, actually. Oddly enough, I'm totally cool with it. I got no problem with it. My dad of the the generation before us, he kind of the same opinion, if I remember correctly. It's like I don't really care. That's nothing for me.
Alright.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay, cool, whatever.
It's like I always saw that as like cool. It's a little
I like
Yeah.
it.
happens, like it obviously it was like coincidence that
Yeah.
it happened. Like I thought it was cool, and then I saw all these like people in comments sections like, that's ridiculous. That's such a ridiculous retcon. Like that's so stupid. Like who cares?
That's
Yeah.
the only explanation I can think of for people not liking that is because I guess they might be playing a little bit with Rex's lifespan.
No,
Because clone
No,
troopers
it's-
only have a set amount
they
of time.
age twice as fast as everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Rex
No, I-
was one of the first clone strands made, which means by the time of this movie, he would be about 60.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it makes
So it fits.
sense. Yeah, I mean,
But like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
it
of the
fits.
stuff I saw was like, oh well, that movie was made before any of that stuff. I'm like,
Who
so
cares?
like all of the expanded universe shouldn't
Yeah,
exist, because
exactly.
that's how
Yeah.
all of this works.
yeah, that's how that works.
But I just wanted to get some other opinions
Yeah,
to make
no,
sure
I,
I wasn't being stupid.
I got no problem with it. I like it. Like I said, my dad, who's of the generation before us, was just kind of like, well, I don't know why they did it, but I don't really have a problem with it, and which,
Yeah, it's fan service. It's a nice little
Yeah.
nugget.
Yeah, and it's not like gross fan service.
Yeah.
It's not like Star Wars spin-off fan service. It's not like fucking the 2 guys at the Mos Eisley Cantina being on Jeddah City
I mean, that's
when
not
it explodes
gross.
fan service.
That's not gross fan service. Gross fan
Well,
service
no,
is
gross
like
fan
the
service was the wrong term there, because that's
a perfect example of gross fan service would be the time that Carrie Fisher at one of George Lucas's award ceremonies brought up that there was a sex doll made of her. That's gross fan
what
service.
the fuck?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Allegedly.
I don't know
Nope.
if I would call that fan service anymore.
Yeah.
That's something entirely
mean-
different.
Yeah.
No, gross fan service is like your stereotypical anime fan service, where it's like, hey, look, big boobies.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Ben Burt was the guy that got smacked with a rock in the Return of the Jedi hangar scene and fell over the side. And I noticed this watch through that he gave himself the most high-pitched Wilhelm scream I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my god.
Like, that sounds like a Ben Burt move.
I fucking hate that scream.
Oh, I love it. I love
So
it.
I hate it.
It's a
it
warm
doesn't-
home.
Need to exist.
Nope, it's a warm
Yeah.
home to me.
Fuck. Why would you? Oh. It's one of those noises that like lingers in my head when I think about it. I hate it.
As soon as I hear a Wilhelm scream, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Star Wars. We're Star Wars now.
Nah, Star Wars is when I see a fucking pod race. That's fucking Star
God
Wars.
damn it!
Damn it!
Fuck! Damn it! God damn it! We were so fucking close, and I was going to point it out so quick so that hopefully that bit would die, just like your other bit. God damn it!
Your pain warms my soul.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't say that he had to mention it every single time, unlike the first.
No, but you know it's a goal now.
I hate this.
So in conclusion, I'm once again sad.
Oh, another thing. This is what I meant to go on a rant on about when I was talking about the retroactive stuff they had to shoehorn in for the prequels. So there's a line Obi-Wan says while he's force Obi-Wan talking to Luke, and he says, "When I met your father, he was already a great pilot," which the prequels had to explain, which is why we get baby Anakin blowing up a Lucre Hulk.
Oh, is that why?
That's the only logical reason I could see them putting a 9-year-old in a Naboo starfighter and blowing up a Lucre Hulk.
I mean, George's explanation was that he was trying to make A New Hope and Phantom Menace rhyme. If you want the actual explanation.
No, but like I'm convinced to keep the continuity of the Star Wars OT. They had to make a 9-year-old blow up a droid control ship.
I don't know. I personally think that they fucking ignore the deleted scenes, because I have watched all the deleted scenes the last couple weeks, and I think they just kind of ignore them and don't try to make excuses for them.
I don't know. I find it hilarious that like Obi-Wan says, "Oh yeah, when I met your father, when he was a fucking 9-year-old, he was one of the greatest starfire pilots in the galaxy."
I didn't realize Obi-Wan. I didn't realize we were talking about Obi-Wan saying that. Yes, absolutely.
No, yeah, that's what I mean.
It's mentioned in a deleted. These fucking special features have boggled my goddamn mind.
These special features are fucking ruining you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, only three more to go.
3 more, and there's way less content on those. There's
Until you get to the Rise of Skywalker.
At this point, we should probably start talking about what our next rotation is.
I ain't doing shit.
Next rotation, at least for the OT, I'm gonna listen to each of the radio dramas.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. All right, yeah,
I will do that. I will not make either of you do that.
No, I'll do it too.
I ain't doing shit. I'm sorry.
All right, so Ben and I'll do the radio dramas, and Josh can just do nothing.
I think that's an entirely fair trade-off.
We're gonna hear all about the Tanta V4.
I've spent entire days of my life doing this. I think it's a fair trade-off.
I can't wait to hear Accountant Vader.
Oh, you killed me. I'm dead. I'm now second-guessing myself, because I hear some people in the fandom calling it the Tanta V4. I always thought it was the Tantive 4, but now I'm hearing people call it the Tanta V4, and I don't know how to feel.
Oh, that sounds off.
People pronounce everything in a medley of ways, and
Han Solo. They do a Han in this movie.
Yeah, they do.
It's Lando this time.
Doesn't Lando pretty much exclusively call him Han?
Does he?
I think most of the time he calls him Han.
Is it just Billy D. Williams?
It might just be Billy D. Williams. I could be wrong. I wasn't counting the hands, but I mean, fuck, I'm gonna do that the next rotation now, though.
It is Billy D. Williams that says it for sure.
Well, that's the thing. I think he almost exclusively calls him that, if I remember correct. I don't know that he calls him Han.
I know he does at one point in Empire, but it's the majority of it is Han.
Billy, it's Han. Nah, fuck you, it's Han. That's what I said. I said Han. No, Han. Han. All right, fucking go. All right, go, Billy. Come on.
All right, action.
All right, Billy.
2 things about the duel that I noticed. Actually, 3. the Palpatine laughing when the two lightsabers meet in front of him is like the highest camp that this movie gets.
Yes. Yes.
Because it doesn't match his face at all.
I have another high camp that I need to bring up, but I'll wait for you to finish your points.
No, do it now.
When Emperor Palpatine arrives at the second Death Star, and they're just walking, and they have all the stormtroopers out and everything, and they're all standing there. Palpatine's just walking and talking, and he just starts cackling. Like, he just does it. And it's my favorite shit, because he's just, it's like a fucking board meeting, and he just starts cackling.
my lord, what are you laughing about? Well, I was thinking about that time you killed all the children. Just great.
There are computers directly under the stairs, like entirely bathed in darkness, like these weird, like cylindrical computers, and I desperately need to know why they put those there. I can't figure out why they would be there in this enclosed space that nobody should be going into.
That's where Palpatine keeps his space porn.
Why would you put that
That's
image
where
in my
Palpatine
head?
keeps the recordings of Anakin killing the younglings.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a good one.
Lord Vader, do you remember when you were fighting Count Dooku and I said, do it? And then you did it. Good times.
Best day of my life.
He has a fucking, like, a hologram photo album.
This is me with my first apprentice, Lord Maul. This is me kicking Lord Maul in his brother's ass.
Fucking the Emperor's sitting there when they first get there, and he tells the guards to leave, right? The guards are in that central part where the elevator to go up there is. That is the only entrance or exit we know of. And they walk away from the elevator.
Well, Rise of Skywalker establishes there is another exit.
No, yeah, but that's next to the throne.
Yeah.
So, in my head, they just walked behind that elevator shaft and just kind of, didn't know what the fuck to do. Because, I imagine they start hearing lightsabers and they're like, fuck, do we get involved? Do we not get involved? Is he going to zap us again if we fucking run out and try and help him? What do we do?
There's a spoof from...
I just like to think in that logic, it's like, what do we do? Do we get involved? God damn it, Gary, we've been over this. What are we going to do against laser swords? It's fucking hide behind the elevator. Come on, get over it.
Robot Chicken, another one of those shows that I never want to see do a Star Wars bit again.
Oh, so good.
I do enjoy
it. Has a bit where Palpatine is talking with Luke, and the meeting keeps getting interrupted by a crew of people working on the Death Star that are just like regular workers, and Palpatine walks over to try to go calm them down and get them to stop, and he says, look, I'll worry about the building, you worry about the convincing young people to turn to the dark side shit. And after 2 times coming over, he just ends it like, I'm sure it'll be over soon, don't worry about it, we'll continue then. So many fucking Robot Chicken bits.
No, because that gave birth to one of my favorite Star Wars spoof things ever, which is when you have Palpatine in the Chancellor's office, but he's fucked up Palpatine, and Darth Vader calls him about the first Death Star.
Yeah.
And
I watched that too.
I was in high school drama club, and one of my close friends used that as his monologue for this show, and it was the most glorious shit, because he had it down. He had the camp cranked up to 11.
I mean, to be fair, that sounds great.
What the fuck is an aluminum falcon?
Is this our new thing? Are we just gonna do bad impressions for
I think we've been doing bad impressions of Palpatine since the beginning of this podcast.
No.
That's been a consistent bit.
No.
There's we've mentioned how lightsabers don't work in this movie the same way that they work everywhere else in the Star Wars saga. I mentioned last time that Luke has to put more pressure into the lightsaber to break through the railings in this movie for some reason. I noticed this time that for like a 2-second bit, the lightsaber is clipping through a piece of the railing as he goes to turn around with Palpatine talking to him. And I think that's just sort of emblematic of the shit that I'm going to keep seeing in these fucking movies for the rest of my life, because never noticed that before.
This gives me my favorite. This gives me my favorite lightsaber scene in the entire franchise, when they're rescuing Han in the beginning and Luke is just swinging that fucking thing
like a baseball bat.
Yeah, we've talked about this, guys.
Wasted no, I know. I want to highlight it because it is the best. Every time I see it, there's no form, there's no flourish. It's just come here, fucking.
Well, also like two things. One, I imagine Luke's just like, fuck it, because what's anyone gonna do? Like, if you see a motherfucker running at you with a laser sword, you're done. You don't. You know they don't need to worry about doing some fancy fucking. They're just gonna swing at you. It don't matter. But like, also imagine the horror of seeing someone running at you with a fucking laser sword.
I'm 99% sure we said these exact things last podcast, guys.
Did we? I know we brought it up a bit.
No, we brought it up.
We talked pretty long about it, if I remember correctly, like 5-6 minutes.
No, but
and
what
I think
I mean
you said
is,
the same exact thing.
On Tatooine, this film becomes a horror movie if you look at it through Jabba's like gang.
One of the best acting performances of the OTs is that guy who cries when he loses his Rancor.
Oh my god, my heart breaks. My heart breaks every time.
Can you imagine the betrayal of those gang members when Lando starts like helping them? They're like, "Oh, you've been here for like a week. We played cards. I told you about the problems I've been having with my wife. You consoled me, man."
There's that one guard who like he got really close to, who he doesn't fuck up.
Yeah. Go, run, and never let me see you again.
And then they reunite years later on a remote desert planet during a festival that only happens once every.
Oh my god! Stop it! Stop it!
This has been Star Wars episode.
Wait,
oh
Josh,
God, what?
I have a correction from you.
Oh God!
Oh, my favorite.
You said in The Rise of Skywalker is the first time we see the saber throw.
You're right. It happens in this movie. I noticed it too. But
Yes.
It doesn't come back to him in this movie. We don't see it.
It's
we
just
don't
not in the shot.
Yeah,
Because
that's
the
what
next
I mean.
shot he has his lightsaber.
Because that you can forgive me for not noticing that because it's not like the full arc.
And I thought of that, but I didn't want to correct you on the spot because I wasn't 100%.
And then you did.
And now I did, yes, because I love you. This has been Star Wars every.
We had it out. We had it out. Now we have to find a new out because of that.
That's it.
No, I agree with Ben. This has been Star Wars every week. Now we've all done the outro.
Good night. Hello, everybody. My recommendation to round out my original trilogy recommendations this week is going to be the Star Wars role-playing game. Now, there's like 17 of these out at any given time, and I know it's kind of intimidating to find the one that you actually want to use because, you know, there's a version with dice that you don't recognize, and there's a version that's like 70 years old and all that bullshit. But the one that I would highly suggest is the Star Wars role-playing game revised rulebook, because it is highly, highly easy to get into. It's kind of very similar to D&D 3.5 if you've played that. And if you haven't played that and you've played 5th edition, which is popular right now, it's pretty easy to get into. It might take a little bit of time, but it's probably easier than it's definitely easier than any other Star Wars game you could get into. And it's also pretty easy to find content for it because it's out of publication, because they have a new version now that has dice that you couldn't explain to anybody. You can find all that information online. You can find it on eBay or Amazon if you want hardcover copies. And it's highly, highly edited so that you can have EU content from all across the board. It wouldn't take that much effort to put in some of the races from the new movies. I would highly advise. I spent the majority of my life looking for a Star Wars edition that worked for me, and this is the version that I would highly recommend. So, much on this podcast, we will continue to recommend things that are entirely out of date. Goodbye.